It's movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom. He's gonna let you know if you should stay home or if you should go. Might even yell if it's a spectacle. From San Francisco to Long Island. 'Cause nothing's better than a motion video. Listen now.
It's Movie Time. It's produced and hosted by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando,
And I'm Mary Yerina.
and this is It's Movie Time. And it's time for me to say congratulations to you and to me and to everybody on our team, as you call it very nicely, for being ranked by FeedSpot in one of the top 10 movie podcasts.
For NPR.
Yeah, for
Yes.
NPR. So we're really very proud, and one of the reasons is because of someone like you. So,
Well.
because that's my genius, is picking my guests. That's where the real.
And you're humble as well. But no, thank you for inviting me to be part of your merry band of movie
Yes.
fans as well as a guest on your show. And
bet.
congratulations to you. You've been doing this a long time
Yeah, bet.
for our community,
Right.
and it's nice to see the
Right.
national recognition.
Sure. Since I wondered, is anybody listening? I guess they were.
They were.
I mean, somebody was anyway. So I didn't have anything to do with it, which is even better. All right, Mary, today we're doing the nominated short films
Yes.
for the Oscars, which is coming up in less than a month. Yeah, just a few weeks.
Just a couple weeks away.
Yeah, and if you can get to see them, and for me it was sporadic, and you were able to cobble together all of them. So we're going to be looking first at the live action, and these are the ones that I have seen and always love. I love that in the documentaries most of all, and now and then the anime is really good, but these two always knock me out. So, but why don't we go ahead and look at the shorts, live action, and I don't know. Let's begin with one you can help me with, and this would be Canada's Invincible. I find this the one that most perplexing to me is what exactly is it doing?
So Invincible is a 30-minute story about this teenage boy in the last 48 hours of his life before he tragically ends his life. And it actually was made by Vincent Rene Lortie. He was the writer and director. He was friends with a young man who this actually happened to. And so he admits in his interviews that this is really kind of his cathartic process for trying to make sense of his friend who was happy and jovial and great to be around, who through mental health and emotional health issues deteriorated to the point that he ends up committing suicide by driving a stolen car into a river. And so it's his imagining what the last 48 hours of his life must have been like. And a lot of the story is told, we don't really hear the narration of the character, Marc-Antoine Bernier was his name. So it's all, you see the actions of a rebellious teen, but then there's a poignant moment where a poem that he's written is read in his detention home class. And you get some insight into his inner sanctum. And it's a challenging film. It's only 30 minutes long, but if you have an interest in and care about the mental health of youth in our society, it's definitely worth seeing.
And I did too. I just felt that there were some holes in the story I needed to know. For instance, why is he in juvie? Is a big question for me. What did this, his mentor there or whatever is very supportive of him and his writing and so on, but I just don't know.
I don't know why he's there. We actually joined the story when he's being taken back there after a weekend with his mother and father and sister. So we don't really know what led to him being there. I only know that he started to deteriorate mentally and emotionally through interview with the writer and director. But you're right, that's not made clear.
At least for me, the 5 or so, this was the weakest because of that lack of information.
And it's in French, so you had to read subtitles.
That's correct. So Bonnie,
But don't let that dissuade you.
I put those closed captions on all the time. There's a theme, at least in two of these, of grief.
Yes.
And the one that is, let's go to the one that I found really very affecting, the after.
Yes.
And this is, it just struck me as a piece of acting that was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you say his name, David?
Oyelowo?
Yeah, I think
He
that's
played
good.
Martin Luther King Jr. in
Sure.
Selma,
Oh,
for
yeah.
those of you who don't recognize him based on my pronunciation of his name.
He has a great face.
Yes.
And the incident that propels this whole story of losing his wife and his daughter at the same time, which would
to a random act of violence.
which would devastate anyone, and it does him. He was a hotshot businessman when he was with them, trying to find time just to be with his daughter, and now he's without them. He's a rideshare driver.
Yes.
And nothing much happens until you get toward the end. It's really interesting, but I am feeling his grief.
Yes, you witness his grief for the majority of the 19 minutes in this film, and it's highly effective. And his performance, again, without much dialogue, you are with him so effectively on this journey of grief because of David's performance and how everything plays out in his eyes and on his face. And to a certain extent, he goes back to the place where he lost his wife and daughter during his downtimes when he's not driving clients. And it's a really touching story of grief to watch. And you're left at the end not knowing, does he recover or does he continue down this abyss of grief?
Yeah, and I think too, helping this sense of grief is him being in that car listening to the mindless chatter of the people who he is lifting. and I say, yeah, that'll put you in even more grief as you listen to them with chatter that means nothing to a man who just lost
everything.
Yeah, he lost everything.
I agree.
And it's the ending's a smash as far as I'm concerned.
It is, and his performance, it made me think as I was watching it, it's a shame that there isn't a category for acting outside the feature films.
Boy, you are so right. I thought exactly that.
His performance is so affecting and so beautifully played, and I was like, he should get an award because in 19 minutes he had to take us on this journey.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible performance and definitely worth seeing.
Okay, so that's good. That's good. So that now the other one of grief is Scandinavian.
Yes. Night of Fortune. But it deals with grief, and you're laughing as you should, with a lot of humor attached to the story.
And I'm told this is the way Danes and Swedes deal with it. So they have an odd sense of humor, and they bring it in to help them through. So Ken, who's one of our colleagues, is Swedish, and so he was confirming that this is accurate. I said, Ken, is this the way the Danes are?
Well, and I will say when I started watching it, because of the subject matter, you have a gentleman who's being taken into a chapel to privately view his wife's body as it's now laid out in a coffin. And, there are terrible times to have laughter, and one of them is at a funeral where you suppress something if you find it funny. So I was watching this unfold, and I was like, should I be laughing? I mean, it's a funeral, and it's about grief, but it's so charming and so funny and very poignant at the end. And the actors, the older actors who play in this, who are Leif, Andrea, and Jens Jarn Spotag, are just wonderful in this. So,
yeah, and I will end this segment by saying that one of my biggest challenges in life is how do I deal with funerals, showings, and so on. And I guess the best is I'm sorry for your loss. about the current one, and I just don't know. And here I am, like you, a person of words, and I find the words not there for me. And so I love seeing this because somebody's actually dealing with the complexity of this, and that they're onto something. You
Yes.
can't. And I think when my mother's funeral and her cremation, I had my friends who were with me, and we were a little bit lighthearted. Sometimes I was feeling, gee, she would be lighthearted, this is my mother. But I felt better with it being lighthearted than being somber. Anyway, Mary Yerina, we have just started.
Well, we have 2 more films in this
and
segment.
we're going to go to that because people will have to go to our podcast, our award-winning podcast.
I know.
They will have to go to WCBE.org, and they will have to go to Backtalk for the rest of the story.
And I hope they will.
It's movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom. He's gonna let you know if you should stay home or if you should go. Might even yell if it's a spectacle. From San Francisco to Long Island.